What up, what up, what up, what is happening, good people? Welcome to this special edition of Herb Tou alongside the great Toussaint Warren. My name is Herb Tou. This is where we get together and talk about issues that currently impact the black community. We talk about how those issues impact us individually and also how they impact us as a collective. And along with your help, we talk through these issues. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this conversation with at least one person that you think would add value to it or find value in it. Again, it is Herb Tou. Intellectual thuggery at its absolute finest. My name is Herb. His name is Tou. Tou. Nice pants, bro.
You know, I do it for the people.
I do it for the people.
What's up, family?
What's happening, man?
I'm blessed and highly favored, man.
I am glad to hear it. Feeling good. The weather's finally acting like summer. Want to act like it remember us a little bit around this camp. This deep into May. Finally, it's showing up a little bit. That makes me feel good. Are you about ready to bring out your bike for the next 4 months?
Bike got to go to rehab, man. I got a new bike.
Doesn't it always?
First of all, you're a hater. That's a very expensive
I'm not a
bike.
hater. That's a fact.
It's a very expensive bike. I got to treat it like a woman. It is what it is.
That's how we're starting the show.
That's how we do it. You know what I mean? But the weather's perfect, man. I went to a summer wedding this weekend. It was kind of fly. In a mansion out in Joliet, outside. It was dope, man. Zoe was there.
Okay.
A few other cats was there.
Shout out to Zoe.
Yeah, salute to the family, man. So it was a good experience, man. What's up with you? Where was you at? You did some football stuff?
When?
I saw you doing something with the Bears. What you was doing?
Heck if I know, bro.
Rookie fitting pads.
Oh, rookie mini camp? Oh, that was just some behind the scenes things. And the rookies getting their equipment, getting fitted for cleats and shoulder pads and helmets and stuff like that. No, I was in Jamaica, bro.
Oh, that's right. You was in Jamaica.
You see my tan? I'm outside, bro. You see my little sunglasses tan right here? I'm outside.
How was Jamaica? What part of Jamaica? Where'd you go? What happened? Was it an adventurous celebrating?
Huh?
Was it an adventurous celebrating?
Birthday trip.
Your birthday?
Yep.
Your birthday's in April.
Absolutely, but I've been working, so it had to happen in early May.
No doubt. Okay.
So I was also my partner's birthday.
The pivot was sweet. I just want you to say.
Why do you always want to play with me?
Baby.
You know what I'm saying? Why do you always want to play with me?
I might have struggled a little bit at that.
It was a great trip. It was a great trip.
That's good business. But anyway, like everybody was happy.
It was beautiful. It's beautiful.
Okay.
In my heart and my soul, Lil, it's beautiful.
Salute. I like the grill.
Whatever, man. P's trying to tell me something, except I don't know what he's trying to tell me. But when I figure it out, I will do what you say, sir. Anyway, man, we don't have time for too much more of our back and forth banter to kick off this show. Like I said at the top, it's a very, very special edition of Herb Tou. We are absolutely thrilled to be joined in studio, one and only president of the CTU, Stacy Davis Gates is in the building. How are you, ma'am?
I'm great. Happy to be here with both of you. Thank you for having me.
We truly appreciate you. We ran down on you like the new pope or something from the crib when we seen you. I mean, you was on TV doing your thing like you always are. We like, hey. But you were very gracious and was like, holler at my people. We holler at your people and maybe we'll do lunch. Here we are. Here we are.
Doing dinner.
You know we'll get to dinner time later. Actually, that's a segment that we like to do. We'll get to that towards the very end of the conversation. But no, we truly appreciate you taking time. I know you're a very, very busy person.
But the requirement of the job is that you keep it transparent. So you have to talk to people, and you have to talk to people everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is a powerful medium. Before the show started, people were talking about how powerful this medium became during COVID because people were craving connection.
True.
And so people maintain that connection with, people in this medium. And it gives you a more relaxed space to develop the conversation, not just the soundbite.
Yeah, we want to get to know, who you are as much as what the job requires and what that looks like. So certainly we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts of what it is that you do as it pertains to all of your. How many members you got?
We have nearly 30,000 members.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's the biggest union in the city, right?
It is. It is the most powerful union, perhaps in the state of Illinois and maybe in the country. We're doing significant work and transforming the way that people engage with unionism and labor. And it is rooted in the Black experience in this country.
Sure, no doubt.
And so I think one of the parts of my leadership that's maybe not stated in the Constitution, but as a history teacher. I'm a high school history teacher.
Okay.
That's how I get here. Well, in part how I get here. I'm a teacher too. And a part of our history as workers in this country meant that we had to stop working, right? We often don't equate the enslavement of African people as labor and the way in which it created an economy and solidified this country as a, quote, first world power.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And so...
Still eat off of it today.
Well, but here's the thing. Not only is there reparatory, justice owed, there's also an understanding, I think, of how we get here that we have to talk about more as it relates to labor. The only reason why we have the United States of America is because enslaved Africans left the plantation during the Civil War, right? You have people who have been enslaved for centuries create a strategy that broke the back of the Confederacy, thus ending their enslavement and providing the pathway for the reunification of America that then begat Reconstruction, where you get public education, because that's what the newly freed Americans required, was that an education, was public health, and then they also required the Department of Justice. So all of these things are a part of our tremendous contribution to this country. You don't get a reunification without Africans, enslaved Africans, going on the first general strike that has ever done anything very significant.
Tucson often says on this show, maybe at least weekly, maybe bi-weekly, that revolution is not always successful.
Well, you can't have a name like Tucson without saying something like that.
I salute that.
Facts. Facts. It's not always successful, but it's always necessary, right? You always kind of got to push back just to let people know we're not going for whatever you're giving. Like, it's got to be fair, it's got to be equitable. Otherwise, we will have a response, whether it's over the top, whether it's, back door, closed room situation.
Right.
We will have a response if we don't feel treated fairly. And I think that's always necessary. Is that always, if not top, maybe back of mind for you in your position?
Well, I think that is why I do this work, is because it gives me a tremendous opportunity to be powerful with other people. Again, we have 30,000 members, most of them women, 80% are women, right? And these are women who live in the city, women who are mothers or mother, women who take care of their aging parents, women who own homes, women who hold their communities down, women who hold their churches down. And so I think that those women are deserved a particular type of advocacy. And so having a place that's powerful, a union, it is powerful, and using it for the common good, using it to further equity, it only makes sense. Yeah. Chicago Public Schools is the second largest employer in the city of Chicago, behind the federal government. Everybody is eating off of black kids.
Facts.
And so if you're not anchoring...
I think every government entity in this country eats off black kids.
Okay, so then what is our responsibility to black kids then? And right now the discourse is real funky. And I think it is both our duty and it is our privilege to figure out how we create space and place to not debate it, but to implement it.
Sure.
So in that vein, right, and based more on the original statement you opened up with, American politics sits on the backs of black people and always have.
Sure.
Right? And our resistance and our revolution has kind of been marred in public policy and public opportunity. Like when you start thinking about the workforce, less than 1% of African Americans are hired in the private sector. Right? So the vast majority of all of our money comes from public sector entities.
That's right.
Right? So when you talk about revolution, it's layered, right? And I think, post-Civil War, post-Reconstruction, revolution looked like government. With this new government, what does revolution look like?
Revolution always is government. The one entity that always holds... Why do you think Elon Musk is messing around with Doge in the federal government? Because that's where the money is. Right. Why do you think that people get mad at black people for asking for reparations? Because that's where the money is. Why do you think there's this fierce fight as to whether or not we actually fund schools in the city of Chicago? Because it's a competition for the dollars, right? You just said something I think is really profound, is that the private sector has yet to come to terms with the necessity of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Look no further than the boycott that's happening with Target right now. They walk backwards on commitment to diversify in every aspect and every layer of their corporation. And so there are organized people pushing back at that. That matters. What we also have to do, especially those of us in the public sector, is create a knowingness within the Black community about who is represented in the public sector. It's me. It's Black women. That's where we work. So when people have this conversation about government is too bloated, that means Black women won't work. That means that our communities are without valuable, components to make it go. That means we're losing our homes. That means our children are not going to college. It means a whole lot of things that connect to everyone in the community. So we have to really and truly interrogate this idea that the private sector is interested in hiring us, is interested in catering to us. They have their whims, they have their boards, they have their own values. But the public sector, well, that's governed by our participation. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's ever been easy or welcoming. I'm not even saying that there are not a variety of barriers to participation in the public sector.
Sure.
And I'm saying that has been empirically the spaces in which we've been able to make the greatest amount of progress. Look at Chatham. Look at the neighborhood that is anchored by public employees. First, they're active checks, right? And then now they're pensions. That's why these right-wingers can't make me hate a pension, because my neighbors are able to maintain their homes because they have a pension. And a lot of those in Chicago, there are parents and there are grandparents.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the nuance of the statement I just made, or the question I just asked, right? And I do think revolution is layered, and I think that they have made a decision. And I don't think they're interested in DEI anymore. I don't think they're interested at all,
not at
right?
all.
And I think that's the decisions they've made. They've made the decision to close this door. I think that the problem is, and where I think we lose or where we lack, is one, our misunderstanding of where we survive at. That's one. And our affinity to a system that we don't even understand. So the pushback isn't it's even when you mention the boycott against Target. I can ride past any Target right now, and there's going to be a line of Black people walking in and out of Target, right?
Well, that's what happens.
Surely, right? But I think...
Well, because you're asking me to go without consumption. Like, the very basis of our interaction in the society and engagement is based on that consumption. That's why it cannot just be a consumption boycott alone. It is a prong. You have a lot of attorneys generals suing the Trump administration right now for various encroachments on civil liberties, civil rights, immigration policy, you name it, right? They get to do that too. But you can't just rely on the courts. You can't just rely on the economic boycott.
Sure.
You have to do everything. I'm a union leader, so I'm going to say we have to organize and create solidarity. We have to, and then we have to name those who are benefiting more than the people who
complete agreement
we're
with you.
in
Even
solidarity
in saying you're
with.
a union member, right, and
Right.
have solidarity, I think therein lies the issue,
Okay.
right? The lack of solidarity is based on the lack of understanding of identity. The reason why it's hard to have a boycott, because most of us don't even identify with the concept of blackness. In my mind, black isn't even an ethnic group. It's a political declaration. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been, right? And if you're not standing in alignment politically with that construct, you're going to continually lose, because you are the foot, you are the shoes of the system. And they're going to always walk on you. That's how it exists.
When the CTU shows up to make a stand against anything or for anything, y'all all got on the same T-shirt, same pen, because black, red, white, or other, we see to you. We see to you.
That's right.
That makes it clear.
Yes.
If we Bloods and Crips, this rag gonna make it clear, right? As black people, nothing other than
You're too hard on
varied skin tones.
I don't think we had enough.
you're too hard on us, and let me tell you why you're too hard on us. Because solidarity has to be about the thing that we need for survival. That's why we can all posse up and come up with red.
I agree with you, Stacy, but if I'm in this tax bracket and you in that tax bracket, we don't need the same thing.
But
so that don't, if that's the unity piece, I don't need what you need.
But our survival is not rooted in, let me give
That's
you
just one example.
But
if I'm gay and you ain't gay, what I need ain't what you need.
You need this earth to not be on fire.
Sure, but so do white people.
But so that's your point of solidarity. So that's what I'm saying. So this idea that we got to find ourselves and come to terms with the trauma of our subjugation in this country or in this world, for that matter, I think that's a high watermark. What other culture of people do we require that level of psychological maturity before they are enabled opportunity in this world? What I submit is that we're all works in progress, and we're never going to be where we need to be. But here's the thing about solidarity. The solidarity that we practice in the union, where you can see us in these red t-shirts, we live in all 50 wards. We believe different things. There's fierce debate in our union.
Sure.
And that's how we get to solidarity. It's because we have to decide what's important. Now, you don't have to love black children, but you have to know that black children in the Chicago public schools is a necessity for you. And so at some point, you're going to have to figure out how to create space, advocacy, support, and position for those children, because that is what's making this thing here go round. Now, people can do it unconsciously, and I think that they have over time, because you wouldn't vote to close 50 schools. You wouldn't even say close 50 black schools if you were anchoring your leadership and your solidarity in them. How we get there, though, is we have to decide on the thing that we all need. We have to decide on the thing that we all need and are willing to struggle with. And we have to decide on, create agreements on how we get there. We have to take votes. We have to have conversation. We have to create a community for that. And that's what solidarity is. It's the practice of community. And it's not the practice of community until I get right. It's the practice of community to make me right. We don't become better in isolation. We become better because you sharpen my iron. We become better because we struggle through a debate. We become better because we practice democracy. And that's solidarity.
In that vein, Chicago's the fastest depopulating major city in America, and those are mostly black people. Right? I think we've lost 400,000 over the last 3 to 4 years or something like that. And because of the closures of schools that, Rom impacted or whatever, how do we justify keeping those schools open with the deficit in budget?
Well, because you don't save money by closing schools. So this idea that those two things are connected is it's not factual.
So I've got the idea. Explain to me how they're not connected.
Well, because look at the 50 schools that were closed and the upkeep that we still maintain because of them. We haven't saved money by closing schools. What we've done is expedite the exodus of black people from this city. That's what we've done. We've actually made ourselves a bigger sitting duck in the construct of America. Think about who we're surrounded by. Wisconsin,
right.
Michigan, Indiana,
Illinois.
Missouri, right? Why is Illinois blue? Illinois is not blue.
Because north of I-80.
Chicago is blue.
We had State Representative Cam Buckner here last week, and he was saying there's a place south of I-80, and that place is called Illinois.
Well, I wouldn't say that. That place is called a red state if we're not clear about the types of policies that help keep us in a place where you can pass legislation that responds to the George Floyd protests, right? That happened in Illinois. And it also happened with the Black Caucus that has some resolve to get that done. Now, I'm not saying that they always get it right. I'm not even saying that we should hang our hat on it. I'm saying it happened. And because it happened, then we have to understand how it happened. It happened because of the concentration of our vote. So as that vote gets diluted, what happens to even the policies we're even critical of? And so this idea of solidarity, what do I need for survival in this moment? What do you need and what do you need? And how do we practice solidarity as we try to understand the revolutionary affirmation of being Black, while we try to understand the trauma of like centuries of subjugation in this country, while we try to work through how our relationships have to be built and rebuilt, while we work through the impact of the carceral system in our families and our communities. Like, look, I'm not saying you don't do the work. We have to do the work,
sure,
right? A lot of work has been done to us. And we get to practice solidarity, and we get to have nice things. No one said that everyone else had to be perfectly in shape and perfectly mentally healthy and perfectly situated in any way. No one said that for anyone else. Why is that our burden? Why is that the benchmark for us?
Because we always got to be better. You know that.
That's not better. That's refusing ourselves the opportunity to enjoy what we already earned. If you believe in reparations, you should also believe that this idea of work and the way that it's placed on us is wrong.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
It's not. I ain't disagree with much of you said.
Okay.
I'm just talking about what is versus maybe what should be or what's ideal, and how do we kind of bridge that gap, right? So,
project by project. Like, really, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get it right. So what can we work on and get right? And how many of us can do different things in the places where we have community already? Sure. Right? There's not going to be this big, meeting at the Mount and then people get their like marching orders and they go. I mean, it could happen. I don't know. But what's likely to happen is that the people that's in your neighborhood, or the people that's in your church, or the people that you are allied with in your union, or the people that you go to the barbershop with, or the people you play ball with, or the people you graduated from high school with, or the people you're in the car club with, or the people you're in the motorcycle club with. No, I'm not.
Okay. I was about to ask you what high school you go to. That's
of course.
That's always the second question about Chicago.
I understood that. Yeah, and it was so funny reading all the tweets about the Pope and everyone wondering, okay, what high school did the Pope go to?
They overdoing that. They overdoing that super heavy. If I may, there's this kind of natural opposition that a person in your position would have with the city of Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe the mayor per se, or whomever, right? Mm-hmm. There's just a natural opposition. It doesn't mean y'all don't necessarily like each other or y'all have a personal grievance, but there's just a natural opposition of the interest that y'all have.
Why?
It's just natural. So I have a $700 million budget.
Right. That's so I have another thing that I do, right? Mm-hmm. And it's I cover a sports team, right? Mm-hmm. As a sports reporter, right? Me and that team are kind of have a natural opposition. They trying to hide all of their facts. I'm trying to expose all of their facts. And so when we have these conversations, at least on the record conversations, it's like, he not really hurt. It's like, ain't he hurt? Like, you know what I mean? It's just trying to hide these different conversations that we have. Ticket prices got to go up. Oh, do they really got to go up? That kind of conversation. It's a natural thing. I like most of the people on that side of it. It ain't personal. I imagine there's the natural opposition between a person in your position and reps from the city of Chicago, even if they're not personal. My question is, how do you personally go about navigating that space where it's like our agendas may be opposed?
How are you opposed to Black children in this city receiving a fully funded, fully resourced education?
Stacy, we just sat here and talked about money for the whole first 15 minutes of the show. So we talking about money.
So, but think about who your representatives are from the city of Chicago.
Sure.
So let's slow it down and
what's up?
Dissect it. Most of the representatives that represent Chicago are Black.
True.
If you look at the delegation that we send to Springfield, right? Yeah, look at city council and the composition. I think the Black caucus, 20?
It's a lot of them. We know most of
the blackest electorate in America.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do we allow this discussion to be about anything else except for our children?
Excuse me.
Okay.
That's the question I asked to start the show.
Okay.
Right? We don't have that solidarity that you speak of. So when I say the other side has already decided,
yes,
they've shown where they stand. right? But because we've drunk the Kool-Aid, we continuously show where we do not stand.
Do we drink the Kool-Aid or is it harder? So think about this. You know, I've been thinking about this, and I don't have a thought process nailed down on this. Brandon Johnson is the mayor of Chicago.
Yep.
Brandon Johnson is a middle school history teacher who was also an organizer at the Chicago Teachers Union.
That's good.
Brandon Johnson and Stacy Davis Gates started at the Chicago Teachers Union on the same day.
Oh, wow.
He was my closest work partner at the Chicago Teachers Union.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that the Chicago Teachers Union cannot invest in a leadership that may be more amenable to the values that our members, all 30,000 of them, have expressed in solidarity? Then why is it okay for a billionaire governor to say that this is the person that they want to run for Senate and not face or get the same level of criticism? So that's 30,000 people. You dig? It's
I'm
not
with you.
one person.
I'm with you 100%.
It is like literally a lot of people. And folks act like that's some special deal when the reflection for one billionaire to make a choice with the billionaire's money about who's going to get the most money in this.
Why else would a billionaire take a $200,000 job to live in Springfield, Illinois?
Well, so I'm saying that
I wouldn't do that if I had billions.
Point
You know what I mean?
of how we're connecting the dots. Regular people get to have nice things. Regular people get to feel empowered. And we have an elected official base here in the city of Chicago that should represent the black working class, because by and large, the black working class is what populates our neighborhoods, right? Why isn't it that they don't represent us to the fullest? I'll take education. Our Black Caucus should be the loudest voice right now saying that rich people need to pay their fair share. Why? Because it's actually true. If you're rich in America, you have benefited from our ancestors' unpaid labor.
Sure.
The country benefits from our ancestors' unpaid labor.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. That's very idealistic.
It's not idealistic. Those are facts.
No, it is a fact.
And so how do we then put those facts into an organizing plan? How do we put those facts into a plan?
You got to get people to put on the same T-shirt. And they not putting on the same T-shirt.
But understand,
once they get their $100 and whatever $1,000 salary, I'm in the top 1% of all black people.
Karen Lewis didn't come in and everybody just had on red T-shirts either.
Sure.
Right? Karen Lewis had to do a couple of things, well, more than a couple, but she had to pick a fight, right? She had to organize her people around something that they wanted. So we organized around the school Chicago students deserve. We contested school closings.
Yeah.
We pushed for facilities that were safe and healthy. We pushed for smaller class sizes. We also pushed for our young people who are unhoused to have housing.
Y'all did all that, and I was using the red T-shirt as an analogy about the elected officials. I'm talking about those elected officials. So once they get those positions they have a salary in the top 1% of black Americans.
And
are poor black people my main interest now, or is staying in the top 1% of those people my main interest?
Can I tweak your question?
I would love for you to.
Are working, organized black people holding their feet to the fire? Think about who drives your buses.
Right.
Think about who drives the trains.
Right.
Think about who teaches in our classrooms. Think about the neighborhoods in which these people are situated. There is more power in the black working class than we're giving credit for. These are the people who go and vote, because these are the people who go to work. These are also the same people who sit in the pews of our churches. These are the same people you see in grocery stores. These are the people who are the infrastructure of this city, and in particular our black neighborhoods. How do we get all of those institutions to talk to each other about what it is that we need? Who gets to lead that? I think you all do a very valuable service to our community by engaging in the discussion. People have to be compelled by something. You got to meet people where they are, and you got to ask them, what do you imagine for your children?
That's definitely our intent. right? That's why I understand the challenge you up against. And I still don't believe in it. It's just the real.
Yeah, but I got empirical evidence that it works.
Well, bless your heart on that empirical evidence.
Well,
right?
no, it's not bless my heart. It's
So,
the facts. Numbers don't lie. Think about what. So let's talk about empirical evidence. So next year, kindergartners will be in a classroom with 23 students and 2 adults, a teacher and a teacher's assistant. That's empirical. We know lowering the class size in early child, in early grades provides a better start to their academic achievement. We know that over and over again. We got that. That's empirical evidence. We also know that in the time of Trump, he wants to ban books, but he only banned the books that Toni Morrison wrote, or Alice Walker wrote, or James Baldwin wrote.
Again, I want to challenge all of that, Stacy, because he ain't even got to ban them. We ain't fucking opening them. I'm sorry about that.
But think about what our union just did in coalition with community groups. We are going to rebuild, reconstruct libraries in the Chicago public schools. And in those libraries, we are now going to be able to teach the truth. We codified that in our contract. Now, I'm not saying that's a silver bullet. You got a 34-time felon on Pennsylvania Avenue, so he doesn't care about the rule of law, and he could probably give a damn about a labor contract, see the federal government and all of the employees that have been fired, right? Illegally. Right? So he doesn't care about that. But what we care about as organized people is the fact that it's enshrined in the contract. So if the Chicago Public Schools and the Board of Education choose to capitulate to Trump, then we choose to organize and potentially walk out. We choose to organize and push them to actually live up to the ideals of a public education. You have to force a confrontation on our values.
That's exactly what I want to do, right? So in that vein, whether red or blue, it don't matter because it's all purple to me. You understand? They all on the same team, in my opinion, right? And until we have a value system structured and rooted in our own identity, we're playing a losing game, and it's very nuanced. And I understand your position.
And I understand yours, and I'm not even saying you're wrong. What I am challenging you on is not that can't happen. It's the sequence in which we always put it, like we got to do this before we do that. Can we do it all together? Can we have? And
here's the only. I don't even know if it would be pushback, right? I think teachers should be paid every dollar they could get, right? I think classes should have 2 kids and not 22, right? Whatever works. Right, whatever works, because the educated populace is going to make this country valuable.
Whatever works.
Right?
Yeah.
I got a group chat with me and my cousins, man. I swear to God, every day they send me pictures or videos from Japan to China where kids are sewing and cooking and 2 years old doing stuff we ain't gonna learn ever.
AI mandatory.
AI is mandatory.
Deconstruction and reconstruction of firearms mandatory.
But then we get 55 schools. People ain't reading at grade level, right?
Well, so. Here's the thing. What does the culture require? And what does the culture represent? And I'm going to say this, and I love my people. Black working class and middle class families in this city are being sold a bad bill of goods. We actually have way more amplification than we use. Think about how many of your cousins, how many of your friends get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be in the car at 6:15 to drive their kids up north to a school before they go to work. They get to work at 9:30 and feel like they didn't already work the full day from just a job. Why are they doing that? Why do we capitulate to our lives being so inconvenient in this city?
I don't know.
Because what does the North Side represent?
Whether it represents that or not, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm asking something different. Why do we capitulate to that drive when
as opposed to changing the circumstances where we live?
And I'm not saying, and I know why,
no,
right?
I feel you.
Because it's another duty. It's another thing to put on the checklist. And why do I always have to fill in the blank in order to get fill in the blank? Why isn't it just easier? I don't know. It's actually my question too.
Isn't the drive up north a duty too?
Well, but that's my point. So how do we clarify our solidarity through our lived experience? And then all of them ain't getting into Kenwood. You understand what I'm saying?
You should have been a Dolphin. Let's start there.
Well,
okay.
Sure. And well, here's the thing. You all just celebrated your 50-year anniversary.
Yeah.
in another 50 years, that room won't look like that.
Oh,
It don't look like
it don't
it
like
looked
that
10 years
now,
ago.
right? From when I was there, it don't look.
Why is that
Another question.
acceptable? Because all you
asked the
dolphins
same questions.
are accomplished, you're well healed,
Sure.
you have like tremendous networks.
But
Dolphins
none of us
help-
dolphins live on Jackson and Laughlin.
But the main
Well,
dolphin
you know-
with the
what I'm
biggest
saying?
network is a purple politician.
But all of you, most of you dolphins live in the city of Chicago, have very high-profile spaces that you occupy,
Sure.
have a network with like dimensions. Why aren't you dolphins asking about why won't our alumni look like it used to look? And why don't you make people listen to you in that way?
Because-
That's the solidarity I'm talking about. So listen to what I'm saying. When
I'm hearing
hear
you.
this shit-
I want to tie it into what you said
Okay, I'm
initially.
gonna be quiet.
Don't be like that. I'm trying to tie it into what you said initially, right?
Okay.
I am one of the most out loud, outspoken, proud South Shorians in this city.
That's right.
I'm from South Shore. I still live in South Shore. I went to grammar school at Bryn Mawr on St. Third and
Okay.
Jeffrey, 1st through 8th grade, right?
Okay.
If me or my mom thought it was a good thing for me to go to South Shore High School, which is 2 blocks away from my grammar
Not
school.
then, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't, right?
Right.
And so therefore, I went from 71st and Jeffrey to Jackson and Laughlin.
Right, that's not a choice.
Every
that's
day.
And that is an ultimatum.
So that's what you said about like how do we
And
change
why-
the circumstances
and why-
of where we live?
That's right. So
I
why-
don't really have no connection to Jackson and Laughlin. I don't really give a shit.
So why does your
that much.
why is your mom's story in that generation and why is my story the same? Like we have, that is the part that you're talking about. How are we leading ourselves to better outcomes? How are we leading ourselves to better experiences?
Mm-hmm.
How are we becoming intolerant of having the same experience generation after generation, or a worse experience, quite frankly, because it was better for your generation than it is for the generation of young people that are coming up in the system right now.
For sure.
So, like, what is that, though? Like, that's my question, too. What is that? I think it's solidarity. I think black working class and middle class parents should have, like, parent groups that actually make CPS figure it out. There are going to be people knocking on your door saying, vote for me for elected school board.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and that's going to happen more. You know what people don't ask? Like, well, what can you do for me? That's another thing that we don't ask about. Look, I get community and the greater good, but what can you do for our community? If I vote for you, am I going to get a fully funded neighborhood school down the street? Because if I'm not, then no. And have you done anything that leads me to believe that you can even accomplish that before you even ask me? And are there people in our community who want to serve on that school board, who can see themselves as leaders? Like, we have to like have a mindset shift, because we have a Chicago right now that has opportunity. We have a new Speaker of the House. We have a new Senate President. We have a new mayor. All of the people who have been in power for generations are no longer in those seats of power.
Sure.
Now, does the system operate in a particular way because it's been legislated like that? Absolutely.
But there's a space of opportunity that hasn't been for maybe 50 years in this city.
So what
I
are we
agree.
making people do? See, that's why people get mad at CTU, because we keep a list of things for people to do.
Let me ask you this, and there's a million things that we want to get to. I'm sure you got a million things you want to get to as well. But I said at the top of the show, you're a very busy person, so we're gonna get you out of here in a bit. So let me kind of ask you this: as a person who represents 30,000 people, right? Not all of those people are the same.
No.
How does your office determine what is worth addressing and fighting for, and what's like, hey, deal with that shit, go back to work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you go about assessing those issues as they reach your desk?
That's funny, that question. I don't get to make those decisions. I get to lead those decisions. And that's the difference. And I think that that's also something. And then we practice a radical democracy at the Chicago Teachers Union. I'll give you the example of how we negotiated this contract. I'm a high school history teacher. I know high school, right? That is my expertise. I can talk to you for days about high school and how I think it should operate, because I spend a lot of time doing that. I haven't spent a lot of time teaching special education in elementary school. I haven't spent a lot of time being a physical education teacher or a music teacher or a speech pathologist. I don't have that skill. So we did a couple of things. We have a committee structure, and we invite people to participate in the committee structure. So they send in proposals. We had over 700 proposals, right? That shows like massive engagement with the people who are doing the work. Another thing that we did is that we opened the bargaining process up tremendously. 65 members, rank and file members who teach in the school buildings, they sit at the bargaining table. And they sit at the bargaining table when we are bargaining the parts of the contract that impact almost exclusively or their area the most. That helps you get it right. But it also helps you check and recheck your work, right? And people are grown. That's another thing leaders have to do. We have to trust grown-ups. I trust that you have to take care of your household. I trust that you understand that we have to treat children well in order for them to be in the school, so we get to anchor our work in the young people, because they are the genesis of what we do. There are no young people in the city. Why do you have a school? And then why do you have people in the school working? So you got to treat those people well. So you have to center your work there. And that's where we find our solidarity. We make it bigger than a paycheck.
Sure.
Of course you're supposed to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like, don't shrink on that. And the sustainability, the reason for being is that we have to serve those young people. So what do those young people need? They need world language. On the north side of the city, you have schools that teach children both languages, right? Like Inter-American is one of those schools, and people drive from the south side all the time up there to do that. We don't have those schools on the west side and the south side in the way that we would like it. This contract begins the process of introducing those schools, so they're emergent. So you leave understanding two languages. When you leave the 8th grade, you now have grounding in both English and another language. And we're going to bring those schools to the south side and to the west side. You get
Gracias.
to, well, and so black kids win with that. Well, but that, and you do. And so some of those schools can be that as well. What I'm saying is that you have to open up the opportunity. And that opportunity is not just for those young kids. Now the opportunity is also for language teachers. Now the opportunity is for the people who build the schools. Now the opportunity is for people who plan curriculum for those schools. Now the opportunity is for the real estate developers in that space who want to advertise it to parents to come to those schools. Think about what's happening in Indiana right now. They are marginalizing public schools. Think about what's happening in Texas right now. They are marginalizing public schools. Both of those states have vouchers. That is not going to help black kids. That is not going to help working class kids. That's not going to help middle class kids by and large. Chicago could actually begin to say, we have world class schools here. You went to one.
Yeah, I did. I'm glad you acknowledged that. Let's go. You had two questions. What's up?
Yeah, I got two questions, right? One, in the last couple of weeks, there's been this mass exodus from CPS leadership, right? One, why is that happening? Two, going forward, what would be CTU's voice in that matter? Like, will you all have any involvement in who gets those next positions, or how does that play out?
Great questions. Listen, this school district is moving towards providing resources to young people. It's moving away from marginalizing resources. Rahm Emanuel told black people that we're going to close schools down and give you more resources.
My people. Some key words in there that
You
everybody.
understand what I'm saying?
Hey.
I'm going to close you down and I'm going to give you more. Houseway, right? And so we're moving away from that. And a lot of the people who are leaving, they subscribe to that model of education where you marginalize opportunity, where you make it harder to obtain the opportunity. We're not doing that anymore. Under mayoral control, we lost school libraries, and the vast majority of them in black communities. So when you see like these Democrats out here talking about Republicans and book banning, well, let's think about the Democrats in Chicago who effectively defunded the school library system within CPS expressly on the South Side, expressly on the West Side. So this is what I'm saying. Solidarity has to be about what is our shared value. Our shared value has to be in the literacy of black children. That's why you can't talk to me about black kids not being able to read if you can't talk to me about the dismantling of school libraries and then how we're going to reconstruct it. Because that's what our contract helps us do. And that's what we're going to have to push for. Those two things go together. Don't ask me why I'm hungry and you are simultaneously blocking my ability to eat.
Mm-hmm. You got a social question?
I forget. I'll get back to it.
All right. I got a personal social question.
Go for it.
It ain't got nothing to do with your job. It do, but it don't.
Come.
As a person who leads or at least adheres, right, to 30,000 people, right, and you're constantly responsible for this and leading that and organizing this and directing that, what's personal life like? What's life at home? You're like, hey, I don't want to lead shit. Don't ask me nothing. Don't make me make no more decisions. I've been making decisions since 6 a.m. I got home, no more decisions.
Well, it means that my husband is like, he holds her down.
Yeah.
He does. He holds the family down. Like, I married a man who is an extraordinary father.
Yeah.
And he appreciates his relationship with his children, and he likes the relationship he's building with his children. I could not be half of who I am without him being who he is consistently. Mm-hmm. So life at home is tough because he's pulling a lot of weight sometimes without me. Life at home is tough because I have teenagers. I have 2 kids in high school next year, and they're smarter than us. They know more than we did at this age, and they might know more technically than we do. And so how do we manage that with, you know, jobs and responsibilities that require a lot of us, and they require a lot of us as well. So you're always making decisions, to your point.
Yeah.
But like, stuff has to lose, which is why, again, you got to practice solidarity because you got to build a strong team. Like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I can get a lot of things wrong because I do get a lot of things wrong. But I hedge my bets on building a team of people and minimizing all of the wrong decisions because you have other smart people who know what they're doing on the team.
That's what great leadership is.
But that's also the practice of solidarity. And I'm going to keep coming back to that because people talk a lot about pluralism. Like, we got to find our way to each other. Look, solidarity means we both need to eat. Solidarity means we both need survival. Solidarity means we're going to figure it out because we need to eat and we need survival, and the people who depend on us need that as well. So it's focused in a very intentional and perhaps intense manner, which is why you'll get a strike out of a union, because that solidarity has some intensity to it. And that's what that's what I wish for my people, is that we find solidarity in our survival, not in like, I didn't go to college, or I'm a returning citizen, or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You know, we have to find solidarity in our shared survival in our community. And I think Chicago, especially Black Chicago, is worth us exploring what that means.
I love the answer. I would dig deeper if we had time, but we got to get you out here on this dinner time. Right?
Okay.
We do a segment called Dinner Time, and what Dinner Time is a segment where we ask you to pick 2 people from any point throughout history, dead or alive, from today to the beginning of times. Pick 2 people that you would have dinner with. One of those people must represent that of an intellect. I told you earlier, the tagline of our show is intellectual thuggery. One of those people must represent that of an intellect, the other that of a thug, as you define both, not as anybody else.
And I'd love for you to pick Karen Lewis as a thug. She could be the intellect too, but I'd love for her to be the thug. But I'll go with whatever your choice is.
One of those is an intellect, the other's a thug, and they're going to have dinner with you for a shared purpose to accomplish something. Who are those 2 people, and what are you all trying to accomplish?
My intellectual is Toni Morrison. The way in which she operated in the world of liberation and the lack of apology for it, it challenges me every day in my leadership. She said our only real job is to get free and to get other people free.
Love that.
Right? She said that is our real job. Whatever it is that you are doing, your express purpose, your job is to do that. And she rejected this white gaze. She rejected this idea that the world that black people live in have to be centered or anchored in whiteness. That we get to live, we get to have joy, we get to have pain, and we get to have a whole bunch of things within the confines of our experience. Not as a subject of trauma though, right? It exists, read Beloved, but it exists where love and resilience also exists. Like she's giving you an idea and an imagination for what it could really be for us. So she's my intellectual. My
Who's
thug,
the thug?
D-Celine. Like you can't be on
D-Celine.
Herb. You can't be on Herb and Tou and not like go.
You know what?
The Haitian
99% of the guests have
revolutionary.
never heard of D-Celine. I really salute that.
Well, you saluted because Toussaint was like the statesman.
He was Barack Obama. I was angry at my father.
Well, because don't be angry at your father. Be angry at the white supremacy that downplays D-Celine and the revolutionary proclivities that he brought to the table. They make Toussaint. Think about history. Who gets to tell the story of it?
I get it.
Right? I would rather tell the story about Toussaint because if I tell the story about D-Celine,
Everybody might rise up.
It's a different story.
so that's what I want to have dinner with.
Che Guevara.
I absolutely love that. Toni Morris and D-Celine. We mentioned Cam earlier, but Cam chose Toussaint Louverture last week, on last week's episode. So I think that's
See the
super
difference?
dope. Yeah.
And
Say
that's
what?
why you
Only
need both of
successful
us.
slavery vote in the Western Hemisphere, though. It's the logical choice.
It is the logical choice, and it is another center of solidarity for Pan-Africanism everywhere. They're being punished for exercising self-determination. They're being punished for being able to create a space of self-determination and an example of revolution in the Western world. Oh, that is a point of solidarity.
Correct me if I'm wrong on the reason why you have this dinner, because that's the last point of dinner time. But you spoke on just the freedom mindset of Toni Morrison, and then the damn it, we gon' be free mindset of D-Celine. Is that why you bring those two people together at the table?
Well, because you have to have balance in all things. Strategy requires a multidimensional approach to the thing, the intention, the goal, the objective. And so having people who come from different experiences and how they practice liberation, I think provides you with a way in which to see liberation in dimension. Both are practicing liberation. Both are practicing a radical love for black people.
Absolutely.
Both are rejecting the restrictions and the bondage of white supremacy and patriarchy.
Absolutely.
Right? And so how do you, as a leader, how do I hold the lessons from both sides of it? Because it is going to take a radical courage and a fearlessness to face white supremacy. That stuff is scary. It is mean. It murders, it maims, and it makes no apologies for its destruction of black bodies. So like to face that on an everyday basis, that's why I'm saying cut our people a break.
But that's exactly what I want.
What? No. Are you watching how white supremacy and its impact is being visited upon us in motion pictures? Have you seen Sinners?
We did a whole show about it.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Think about like the trauma and the terror.
Right.
Look, love on us. Do it. Give us more leeway to be the humans that have been traumatized. I'm not saying let us off the hook for making decisions that support our health and our wellness. I'm not saying let us off the hook for like creating legacy and seeing our children and our grandchildren as the objects of our liberation, right? Of course do that. And also give us credit for surviving the horror of our experience in this country. Think about it. Emmett Till left Chicago, the south side of Chicago, went to Money, Mississippi, and never came back. They went in the house and they got a little boy. A little boy.
Yeah.
A little boy.
That's what we up against.
And they got another one in Cincinnati last week.
You understand my?
I do.
Boy. And so, do not penalize us for not being able to always understand why.
I'll try to bring this together on this, and we can get out of here. I didn't hear to penalizing so much as identifying where we must get to.
Yeah.
Right.
And love is there.
That's that shared identity. And on the way to that, I can love you through every evolution of that. But this is where we must get if we're actually going to win this fight.
There's no but in love. There's only an and.
And, okay, I can love you through that. And here's where we must get to. If we're going to win this fight of revolution, this fight of liberation.
And know that everybody ain't getting there in the same way. Know that everybody's
period.
But know that everybody's liberation ain't like yours or mine.
Facts.
Know that we have to get agreement on what that looks like and what that sounds like.
That's the red t-shirt.
I'm fully in agreement with that.
Yeah.
That's the red t-shirt.
That's right. That's the practice of struggle and solidarity, because you got to have both.
Yeah. I just think the vast majority of us thinks freedom looks like a pay stub.
Yes. Well, how could you not? This is capitalism.
True.
Black
it's also
excellence, right?
At your demise, right? So I don't believe in that construct either. I don't believe in the construct that we're not a monolith. I don't believe in none of these constructs. I think O Block is on the same block as those gravestones on 43rd. I think it's 2 miles away. I think a smallest caliber bullet could travel that far. I think it's a fallacy. And I think we buy into the fallacy over and over and over and get the same results. So Emmett Till, the young boy in Cincinnati last week, over and over and over, same results. So my argument is not that what's needed. I know what's needed.
Okay.
Right? How we get there and why we get there. Right? Even when you mention the CTA bus drivers, they'll go in the voting booth and they'll vote for Kamala. I would never give Kamala my vote, personally.
Really?
Never, ever. Not if I was my dying
So how do
breath.
we explain? So
Right?
how do we explain
But
this
it's because
moment?
of my radical understanding of what blackness means to me. She doesn't represent that. Nor did Obama. And to being quite honest, even my namesake. Sometimes I struggle because it's the same thing. I'm more in line with the Desaline philosophy, right? Now, Tucson.
But how you gonna get the revolutionary if we working backwards with the freak in the White House right now? So, like, help me here.
But we
I'm
didn't
not
ignore
just
the freak in the White House.
But listen to what I'm saying. And this is not an argument. These are honest to God curious questions, right? I've heard people say exactly what you're saying. I don't even judge you for it. I understand it, right? There are real experiences connected to your decision, right? So you get to have that. That's not mine to have. And you are practicing a type of resistance that's going to need leadership, solidarity, organization, revenue, direction. The way in which the opponent in the White House now is coming for us, it makes it harder to participate in that resistance because we are being robbed of things along the way. So, for instance, the federal workforce in the DMV area, that's black people. Those are black women. Any public employee is probably female, it's probably of color, right? It's probably holding down, more than one family.
I know some being directly affected right now.
And they're being directly affected. How does it make us, with them on the sidelines, without any type of regular income, how does that make us stronger for the revolution that you want for all of us? That's what I don't understand. How do we not make it harder for ourselves on the road to revolution? I ain't saying that Kamala, the Vice President Harris, has to be your destination. What I'm saying is, how do we make it less hard on our way to the liberation we deserve?
I think
it's hard for me to argue this point because I don't agree with the premise itself. Right? I listened to you for 22 hours. We go.
Come on. We want, right? Help me understand.
It's just an adjustment of our values. I agree with that part.
Okay.
All of those things that you say we need, we only need or only aspire to them in the construct of capitalism, how we view it. No other ethnic group in America views it from the same vantage point, with the exception of white folks. And even white folks is a bonding group, right? You just watch Sinners. There's a specific reason why they use the Irish.
Yeah.
There's also a specific reason why the Irish, when the little man started praying, he was like, yeah, they hit us with that bullshit too, right? Because they stole our culture and then we folded in and brought the same bullshit they was bringing to us to you too, right? We're the only people trying to lie with that concept.
But you forget about the Native Americans who bring warning the first time, and then when you don't listen or take heed to it, they go deuces and they go back to where they, and they go back.
I value that more than all that other shit.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that they've made choices that do not put them back behind the space in which they are currently. All I'm looking for is how do we get ourselves from this plateau to the next plateau to the next plateau without too many retreats on the way to the next plateau. I see this as an unprecedented retreat. I do. And I think it's going to have unprecedented damage that we talk about as if it's the same. It ain't the same.
Again, I agree with 99% of stuff you say. But how do we get there? How do we get to the Trump administration? How do we get to the choice between Kamala and Trump? How do we get to these places? We get to these places.
Okay.
We get to these places by...
You.
Trying to jump in on y'all, but go ahead, finish
We
your point.
get to these places, you say capitulating. We've made a different word. We say capitulating.
Yeah, we made up a word. It's called capitulate. We sold
We got t-shirts and everything.
we sold about 1,000 t-shirts
What
to
am I
say
t-shirt?
capitulate.
You know what I
Where's
mean?
my
And
t-shirt?
We'll grab some. We still got a few
we
of
still got some more. Well, what size you need? Let us know. We'll get you one.
Yeah.
We've gotten to these places by capitulating for probably the past 40, 50 years.
Again, my disagreement is not an experience that people are having. I don't get to go back and forth about people's experiences. I don't. What I'm asking though is different from what experience you've had. I am asking, what do you need? What are you willing to do? What is your vision? Who else agrees with that? How do we struggle in the practice of solidarity to get there? Those are the questions. I do not doubt that your mountain ain't been rough. I don't doubt that, right? And got it. Where do we go from here? Because now you do, both with the retreat that we're in right now, the retreat from everything, you ain't even gonna see Big Bird and Elmo on television. You know what I'm saying? That's immeasurable damage. Sesame Street was literally created for black children.
Yeah.
Literally created for working class children. Literally created for melanated. It was created for... All of what is happening is very targeted to roll us backwards. And so my question is, we can't both be okay with that and not hold ourselves responsible for figuring out the pathway forward. Look, you get to have your critique. You get to even say no. And where are we going?
So just so we clear, I'm not okay with that. We are on the same page.
Okay.
Right? I'm not okay with that. But one, you said you're a Chicago transplant, right?
Of course. But my
wait,
family,
wait,
just
wait,
like everyone's family.
Wait.
Come on.
Wait.
Okay.
Chicago is the epicenter of blackness in America. How Chicago goes, so goes the rest of the black world. Not black America.
I don't
black
disagree.
world.
Agree.
Right?
Agree.
Which is why you get what you get up out of Chicago. King wasn't king till he came here. Farrakhan came here. Oprah came here. Regardless if I agree with Oprah or not, it's here that made her. Obama, regardless if I agree with him or not, it's here that makes him. You understand? And right now, that retreat that you're speaking of, what we need love and audacity.
Absolutely.
Now, you can only get that through alignment.
So how we getting there?
I.e. back to them red shirts, which we don't have. We missing. Those CTA bus drivers that you spoke about and some of those electeds that you speak about, they don't see themselves as the same people.
So how might we people like us, because it's more than just us, how might we create,
that this skin tone
she didn't ask her a question.
T-shirt.
I'm with that. So how might we, as people who want to practice solidarity for our children in Inglewood, our children in Roseland, right? Even bring it down from us, right? What is it that they need? They need stable homes. How might we agree on getting young people stable homes? I'm going to give you something that we do need to agree with, and it's something that's calling out for some intervention. They're telling our children, I met your daughter. I have 3. Are you a dad?
I am not.
Why can't our children go downtown?
My children can go downtown. So can your children. Where's the pushback coming from, though? And I think this is where the nuance is. Where's most of that pushback coming from?
You tell me.
Us.
No, it's not. You have people downtown who don't want to see them down there. Now listen, I'm not saying they get to go anywhere and act a damn fool. I'm never GM for that. You get to go and act like you got home training everywhere you go. That is the rule.
So I'm going to challenge you respectfully. So, I just had this conversation on the phone and I'm not going to out my man.
But let me say this. And they still get to go downtown. Well, come on, tell me. Let's talk about it. Because I actually think that we are falling down on that discussion in particular.
See, this is what I mean about audacity, too, though, right?
Okay.
So I was having this conversation with a police officer.
Got it.
Right? Back to those public entities, those public jobs. We hold those positions.
Yes, we do.
Right? And he came to me with that bullshit argument about how children act fools downtown. And I said, my man, they act the fucking fool when the Cubs win the World Series. We'll never hear a conversation about that. My man, I've been to the gay pride parade by accident. I know you hang out all the time. I'm
there every year if I can be.
Because I'm a cyclist and I ran into it by accident.
Sure.
But it blew my fucking mind what was happening on the street. No conversation. Let the boy Billiken happen. His response to me. This was his response. Because it was like eye-opening to him, which I don't fucking understand.
Okay.
He said, damn, Tou, I had specific directives for the gay pride parade for when the Cubs won the World Series. Y'all are just down there as a show of force. Don't you fucking touch nobody. Don't you fucking touch. But the same directives for the Bud Billiken is they get loud, lock their ass up.
So
the audacity that we need should be in that room, right? You shouldn't have on that uniform and deny your blackness in those conversations.
I don't disagree with anything you said.
But it threatens your paycheck.
Fighting for our humanity has always threatened something.
That's kind of my point. I eat decent. I don't even want to say decently in Tucson because that's not even comparable at that point.
It threatened theirs. It still threatens it. They are still in a reparations phase. Remember, they just left the French Parliament basically asking them to cancel the debt.
Yeah.
That's been within
True.
the last month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always cost something. That's a part of the process. So you have to accept that as a part of loving, protecting, and supporting our young people. But the solidarity is, do they deserve it? I think they deserve it. So what are we going to do about it? I don't like that. I don't like that barriers are put up for our children. I don't like the characterizations of our children downtown. No. How do you choose which kid is the kid that you get to have down there? What differentiates them in that way?
Sure.
And why aren't we talking about it like that? Like I am saying, the children in this city provide an economic engine for this city. Chicago Public Schools.
And the jails.
You understand? Chicago Public Schools is the second largest employer behind the federal government. Why can't you take care of those young people? Why can't those young people have football two-a-days at every high school in this
two-a-days,
city?
come on.
You know, why can't the cheerleaders and the band also have their camps as well? What else are we giving them outside of those barriers downtown? They should be able to go downtown.
Nothing.
And
we don't even have
it.
to because the black electorate doesn't have the audacity.
So let's make them have the audacity.
I agree with you.
So ride with.
So we got to have the audacity in how we have these conversations, because I think the vast majority of them doesn't even know we lack this level of courage.
Well, we've had an audacious
we go
conversation
into the voting
here.
booth and think we're electing those kind of people, and we're not. We even went to the voting booth for Kamala in that vein. That's not who she is. So you're not going to get those outcomes. You're not going to get those results.
So the type of politics we practice at the CTU is anchored in changing what we're talking about, anchored in how we only engage on the things that present our values in the way in which we want to engage. I'm not mad at you for saying that. I don't even want to engage.
That hour didn't mean nothing, did it?
I don't want to. Well,
listen, I only want to say, for the record, because every boss I know has a boss. And I tried to respect the hard out. I did my best, then y'all got into your own shit.
I would have said
which I absolutely love. But this is what I'm gonna
I like it though.
This is what I'm gonna say to both of y'all, because I don't disagree with either of you. I agree with a lot of what both of you said, and I think that there's a medium that has to be met. And I think that for me, when I look at the state of the black community, I always say that there are three groups of people as it pertains to our liberation.
Okay.
There is one group of people who are aware of the problems that we face and are actively, in one way or another, doing something to overcome those issues that we face.
Okay.
There's a second segment of people who are aware of the issues that we face, but they feel helpless to do anything about it. Apathy has set in, pessimism has set in. They're like, yeah, I know, but fuck I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to work, take care of me and my people. There is a third group of people who are sincerely ignorant. Now, I'm pointing at you because you just talked about people not knowing, not because I think you're ignorant. Although sometimes I do.
Okay.
There's a third group of people who are sincerely ignorant. And I don't mean that with any negative connotation. They legitimately do not know, right, that there's an issue. And I think we spend so much time looking at the people who are either sincerely ignorant or apathetic and hopeless, when really, and unfortunately, but really, this fight is incumbent upon those of us who know and engage to find a way to work together to make progress. And if we can do that, we have we're more likely to get that second group that's aware but hopeless to engage. And if those two groups can get on the same page, maybe we have a chance of figuring out how to go at that ignorant group.
You've already narrowed down your target audience for organizing. Organizers don't just go and get everything. What you just said is that I want to talk to working class black people and I want to talk to middle class black people because they are participating in this world. That's what I heard you just say to me.
Respectfully, and I get what you're saying, I didn't say that. I said people who know there's a problem and are doing something to address it, right? That don't necessarily involve their tax bracket, because earlier in the beginning of the show, I told you.
You said working class, who ain't working?
I didn't say nothing about working class.
No, but listen to what
I said
saying.
Working to overcome the issues. Wait, let me finish, please. What I'm saying is, if you know and you're trying to overcome it in some way or another, you could do that from a Fortune 5, or you could do that from under the bridge at Wacker, right? However you go about that, it's cool with me. What I'm saying is that group of people have to find a way to come together, because earlier I said we use all those other things to divide us. Well, I got this much money. I like to sleep with this kind of person. I like this kind of activity. Whatever. And we use all those things as reasons to divide.
I'm at the day party versus I'm at the 50.
Right. I'm a 50 nigga.
I'm a day party nigga.
Right.
Well, that's because you're old.
Oh, look at that shit. You just threw me out to the bus. First of all, I'm in the house, got to
right. He ain't on But here's my point to what y'all was saying, right? I think that a lot of times when there's a level of ignorance and when there's a level of hopelessness, sometimes you have to be forced to move. Forced to move. You just talked about 2-a-day football practices. I've done a lot of them. Back in my day, we still did 3-a-days in the summertime, right? We did 3 practices a day in the summertime. I didn't want to do either of the last 2, right? I was forced to. Sometimes you have to be forced to do what needs to happen. And 45, 47, whatever you want to call them, he's bringing about an environment where we are going to be forced to do what we should have been doing for a very long time. He's forcing an environment where we're going to realize that this tax bracket and that tax bracket, 2 miles apart. O Block, 43rd, fuck you. We're on the same bus stop. We're on the same bus line, right? You're going to be forced to understand your position in the society, which should cause you to move differently, which should cause you to put your damn red t-shirt on, whereas before, that small divide of 63rd to 47 said, I'm in this Greystone and you in this O Block and we ain't the same. You're wrong. Put your damn red t-shirt on and let's do something.
And they're on a bus stop because somebody's going to work somewhere. Now, what type of work? The tax bracket of work. But everybody's working.
Yeah.
And what you also said is that there's organization within that. You talked about football and that there were 3 practices. There were 3 practices that were organized for you to participate in.
Mm-hmm.
The organization and the group of people. I'm just saying, you're speaking like an organizer. So I'm just bringing you back to the working class.
Yeah.
See, we think about working class as McDonald's. The working class is anybody who got a job.
Sure.
Especially in the environment that you just described.
Sure.
And the organization is the thing that keeps us honest, right? Because you wanted to play, so you went to practice.
Absolutely.
But no, I'm just playing.
No, y'all stupid. We're done. Mrs. Stacy Davis Gates, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate this.
And we
This was so
appreciate you.
fun.
You are always
This was dope.
always welcome.
Always
If you ever want to
welcome.
come on here and curse out Mayor Brandon Johnson, us casa su casa.
Let's cuss out the governor.
No, yeah. Well, I already talked about him. But there's no reason for a billionaire to want to make $200,000 and live in Springfield unless there's some underlay for the overlay, and that's a different conversation. But
That is a conversation. He's running for president. You got a lot to say about that.
yeah,
And you should.
he ain't gonna get elected.
Well, whether he's elected or not, the process of running for
We ain't
president.
seen a fat president in a long time.
See, we didn't do this. We didn't do this.
The process of running for president presents an opportunity to engage in the issues of how do you govern a country that has urban centers. So how did you govern Illinois that had the premier black urban center? You see what I'm saying? There is a process under which we need to have this debate out loud.
Shit, I want to say something. E, please.
We are leaving.
Nah, like good conversation, brothers. I appreciate y'all.
So do we, sister.
Thank
We
you.
greatly appreciate you taking the time and a little bit more time to come through and chop it up with us. Come back anytime. We would love to, have more conversations with you just as things arise or just as we want to chop it up. Thank you so very much
Appreciate you.
for
Both of you.
representing black people and doing it in a space that's not easy to do that in. I recognize the challenges. Well, as far as I can as an outside looking in, I recognize the challenges that you face, and I think you handle them with a level of grace and professionalism. I respect it. I salute it.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Appreciate you, both of you. Thank you.
That is president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Her name is Stacy Davis Gates. We are thrilled to have had her on the show. We got to get up out of here, man. Shout out to PI for doing all of the hard work behind the camera. Shout out to E4O for being momager, manager, mom, producer.
Stop all that capitulating.
That she is. For Tou, I'm Herb. Y'all be good to each other. Peace.
Salam alaikum.